Karen's audacity reached new heights when she attempted to secretly deliver illegal goods onto my farm. It seemed her ambition to exert control and test boundaries knew no limits. She apparently believed that the HOA's influence could extend even into the criminal domain, using my property as a conduit for illicit activity. True to form, she also dialed emergency services, attempting to frame the situation as if I were the perpetrator. But she had made a critical miscalculation. She was dealing with a family well-versed in law enforcement and investigative procedures. When the delivery arrived, I immediately secured the area and documented the goods. Carefully collecting evidence, I ensured that every item, interaction, and detail was recorded. The police were called, not at her request, but to report a potential criminal act. Karen's plan to manipulate authority had completely backfired. The moment law enforcement arrived, they quickly recognized that the goods were illegal and that Karen herself was the source. Her attempt to frame me for her actions was immediately exposed, leaving her speechless and unable to justify her behavior. This confrontation demonstrated, more clearly than ever, the consequences of overreach and deception. Karen had consistently relied on panic calls and assumed authority to manipulate situations. This time, however, her actions had crossed into illegality, and the careful preparation and documentation I had maintained ensured that she could not escape accountability. The officers, upon reviewing the evidence, detained her briefly and warned that any further attempts could result in criminal charges. Her entitlement, once considered audacious but harmless, had now brought tangible consequences. What made this event particularly instructive was the precision with which I handled it. Every step, from securing the property to collecting evidence and contacting law enforcement, was methodical and legally sound. Karen, who had assumed she could act with impunity, was confronted with the limits of her influence. Her previous tactics of intimidation, panic calls, and harassment were rendered irrelevant in the face of law, preparation, and clear authority. Neighbors and community members were quick to learn of the incident. Karen's credibility, already weakened by repeated failures, was further eroded by this attempt at deception and illegal activity. The HOA's ability to assert control or intimidate through assumed authority continued to decline, as the public and law enforcement now had documented proof of her reckless behavior. Her repeated overreach had turned into a liability, exposing her actions to scrutiny and consequences at every level. This incident also reinforced a broader lesson. Authority is not about panic calls, assumed titles, or entitlement. It is about preparation, legality, and the ability to enforce boundaries decisively. Karen had repeatedly failed to grasp this principle, and the result was predictable. Each failure built upon the last, creating a clear record that demonstrated her assumptions about power were consistently and demonstrably wrong. By the end of this confrontation, my farm remained secure. The illegal goods had been removed, and Karen faced the tangible consequences of her repeated overreach. Her attempt to manipulate the situation through deception and false claims had failed spectacularly, reinforcing the reality that preparation, legal authority, and calm enforcement always prevail over arrogance, entitlement, and illicit schemes. This event marked another pivotal moment in the ongoing saga. Karen's repeated attempts to assert control had escalated from harassment to illegality, and each time, she was met with predictable consequences. My family's authority, property, and peace of mind remained fully intact, while Karen's credibility and influence continued to erode under the weight of documented failures. Each confrontation underscored a single truth: preparation, documentation, and strategic enforcement of rights are the ultimate defense against entitlement and overreach.